Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Kirsty and this is Stuck in the Mud. Thank you everyone for all your support. Please remember to like the videos and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because together we can build a bigger OCD and anxiety community where we can help each other along our recovery journeys. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about why does my OCD and anxiety get worse over the holiday, the Christmas season, this festive period that is nearly upon us. It's so close now. We can hold ourselves to such a high standard at this time of year, and we're trying to be perfectionist about everything because we want everything to be good, to be nice, to be enjoyed by us and our families. So OCD is going to see that and it's going to be like, yep, I'm going to sabotage this. OCD loves to sabotage things that we're looking forward to. This has been my experience. Just please let me know in the comments if this is something that's affected you in the past. It loves to hijack situations that we're looking forward to, whether that be a family holiday or, maybe you're getting married, just some, big events in your life. But the holiday season, the Christmas season, it's going to be like, we like these times to be, perfect. And unfortunately, they're not always the way, and as a child, I remember I would lie in bed at night, especially on Christmas Eve, and maybe this was just me. I don't know if anyone else has had this out there, but I used to fear that I wouldn't wake up in the morning on Christmas morning. I was so excited about the following morning, and this was my kind of fear at night, because my fears revolved around, loss and, the fear of loss and death. And so that was definitely a very early memory of mine. So I always have this thing about, Christmas being perfect. Even this week, I had someone let me know that they thought the child had chicken pox, and my two youngest haven't had it. And when I got this message, and I was thinking, oh my goodness, that's it. Christmas is kind of ruined because they're going to get it. And I was, I could see how quick it was going to kick in again. But I had to let that be there. And in fact, if I'd gone into it and like, oh, Christmas is going to be bad, they're going to be itching, they're not going to open the presents, it's going to be terrible, I could be down that path. But I accepted it. I accepted that sometimes things aren't the way we want them. As it happens, it was a false alarm, it wasn't chickenpox, but, I was already there. I could have been right there. So I did just let it sit there. And, I wanted to kind of, reassure myself that maybe it wouldn't happen. But I did hold back, I let those kind of thoughts be there. And as it turned out, it didn't happen that way, because it turns out it wasn't chickenpox. So, it'll just see how things happen, but things aren't always perfect. We can't expect that will always be the outcome, but we can get so fixated on something bad going to happen because it is such a happy time of year, and we want to keep it that way. We can have a lot of anticipatory anxiety over this time of year because, let's be honest, it's very hectic, it's very stressful. There's a lot of different things going on than we're used to. And, this is what I wanted to talk about, is 5 reasons why you might feel like your OCD and anxiety is actually getting worse. Because this festive season, it creates many opportunities for existing triggers that you may have and also new triggers. So we just want to explore some of the ways that may happen and the things that you may notice over this period of time and what we can actually do about it to actually make it better and not feel so much like it's such a dreaded time. Because I think a lot of times as people that suffer from OCD and anxiety, we can actually dread the holiday season because of the disorder we suffer from. But it shouldn't be that way, because this is a joyous time of year and it's a time where we should look forward to it and we should enjoy it. So let's discuss some of the ways that the anxiety and your OCD may present itself over this time. And number one, the reason is we have a lot of disruption to our normal routine. It's anything but the normal Monday to Friday that we're used to. And I know for myself that, I think everyone would probably agree with this, is you don't know what day of the week it is at this time of year because everything just seems so rushed. And so things are not going to feel quite normal. And this could be to do with the way we cook, the travel that we do. We tend to do much more traveling over this season especially if we're visiting, our family and friends. We're meeting up with friends and family, and that in itself can be quite triggering for a lot of people. And it can actually, start to bring up some maybe past memories of things that maybe you've struggled with in the past. You could get triggered over something that happened in the past, and it could bring up a lot of false memories or things like that would just set you off on another obsession. Or, you just tend to feel so much more pressure over this time, to do everything and to cram everything in. So it's going to feel like quite a stressful time, and stress is the thing that will set off OCD and anxiety. And especially if you're feeling quite tired alongside this as well. Like tiredness for me is definitely one of my things that just sets off OCD and anxiety, intrusive thoughts. It really does. It can make you feel quite vulnerable at this time of year because, you're very tired. You're probably working on a lot of, low energy, sleepless nights, especially like myself. I've got young children. I've got 5 children. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot to actually accomplish at this time of year. So we're just trying to fit everything in, and it can feel quite overwhelming at times. So just bear that in mind, and, it's going to be a lot. So we just have to be kind of aware that could actually happen at this time of year. And number 2 is safety concerns, because we do find there's a lot of things that could trigger us in this department, especially if it revolves around having candles out, or we have lights, lots of decorations. We're leaving things on all day at times, and these can be safety triggers around our OCD, and we can think that having these things on could be a potential hazard, and we can become quite obsessed over it. So these things may start to trigger you. So just bear that in mind as well. This can then lead to quite a lot of responsibility OCD. We feel an inflated sense of responsibility over the safety of ourselves and our families, because, we have all these lights and decorations on at this time of year. So, just be aware of that. And it is an overinflated responsibility, because, things happening from this are so small. Everything is, safety regulated now. So I think our concerns can be overinflated, but if we're doing, all the necessary things around this, it shouldn't really be an issue. But where there is room for doubt, OCD will likely try and hop on board. So, it can be reasonable to check that maybe you've turned your lights off at night, but to then check it 10, 20 times is where we're doing it excessively, and this is where OCD is actually taking control of us. Number 3, relationship OCD. Christmas and the holiday season is a time we spend much more time with our friends and family, and maybe we have a really great relationship with them, and that's brilliant, but not everyone does. Maybe that this would actually trigger your OCD again around relationship OCD, whether it's with a partner of yours or your family, your immediate family, distant family members. This is something that can set you off again on maybe a past obsession, something that you maybe thought that you'd got over, but seeing them again actually, brings up some old memories of this. So, just to be aware of that, when we're feeling, like we're out of our comfort zone again, and maybe we're in a situation that we're not particularly happy about, that, you know, this could potentially start that off again. And number 4 is time on your hands. You know, not everyone is busy at this time of year, you know, and a lot of people will spend time off work, so they find themselves with just extra time to think about stuff, to ruminate about stuff. You know, I'm guilty of this, you know, when things feel like, you know, we've just hit the stop button on school, on work, you know, on all those other outside influences, and we're spending much more time at home. This is something that in the past that would really trigger me, because I don't do so well when I'm just stuck at home. And, you know, there are things we can do and we can go out as a family, but it's a busy time of year, you know, when everybody's going out and doing things. And sometimes, you know, that can be a trigger in itself. So there's finding that balance, but there are other things you can do that are not going to be so overwhelming. But just to be aware that, you know, to get yourself out and doing things, even if it's just for a walk or playing a game at home, just something that's not so much that you're stuck there just kind of, you know, on that OCD, you know, merry-go-round trying to figure everything out. You know, just be aware that when we have that extra time, that we don't, you know, have that sabotage us, because that's what OCD loves to do. It loves to, you know, hop on board, especially when we do have that free time, and, you know, we're feeling like, you know, we've not got as much to do anymore. You know, it opens up that space where OCD is just going to try and hijack. So we're not standing on guard of it, and that's something I always want to reiterate, is we're not standing on guard of our thoughts or anything like that, but just to be aware that these things can crop up at this time of year, and this is why it happens, because free time. And number 5 is food concerns. You know, this was one of my past obsessions. It's not something that I really concern myself with too much these days. I'll talk about something that happened to me recently. But, you know, we have food concerns over having contaminated food that's being prepared for us, maybe at a party or a family member's house or a friend. And we can also have those fears over preparing food ourselves. This is something that I had an obsession about many years ago, is if I could poison someone and if harm would come to them unintentionally. You know, this is something that I don't want to happen. But, you know, this was something that I really feared. I feared making someone sick and something absolutely terrible, you know, something terrible actually happening to them. And going on to a story, last night, you know, I prepared some food for my dad, and I gave him some out-of-date food, which was just the worst thing for me. And, you know, I was quite upset about it, because I didn't notice. I saw the date, but I didn't notice the month. And this is where it really upset me, because it was just so unintentional. I didn't mean it to happen. But, you know, I could see how OCD would kick in again, you know, very quickly, you know, and I just want to put it out there. My dad's absolutely fine. You know, he seems absolutely fine today. But when it happened, it was just, I was so upset, and I could see how OCD would just kick in there. I wanted to search for assurance on, you know, this type of food. If he ate it so much out of date, you know, could it be potentially harmful? And I felt that urge to do that, and I really had to kind of just let that play out there and be there, because it just takes you down, you know, the wrong alleyway, the wrong path. You're going to that path of destruction where, you know, OCD's making up scenarios, and that doesn't mean something bad's going to happen. You know, this food was perfectly fine, you know, in terms of the way it looked and the way it smelled and everything, but it was out of date, and it was an accident. It was just a pure accident. But I could feel those pangs of guilt coming over me, like, what if this happens? And in fact, none of that happened. You know, he was absolutely fine. But you can see how OCD can really kick in if we let it. But if I let those thoughts be there, I'll see how he is in the morning, just check on him. And that's reasonable to do so. But when we start to, you know, we're trying to figure out the future there, that anxiety is trying to kick in and trying to make us, you know, come up with all these different scenarios of what could happen, and it doesn't help the situation. You know, the situation had already happened, but this is where we have to let those things be there. You know, we can't figure everything out, and, you know, life is going to happen, and it's going to happen the way it does. And, you know, thankfully my dad is okay, so I just like to put that out there. So how can we help ourselves this holiday, this Christmas festive season? We can be kind to ourselves. You know, it's just an overwhelming, stressful time. You know, if you feel yourself getting so overwhelmed, you know, take that time out. It doesn't have to be perfect. You know, we can, you know, try and make sure and put pressure on ourselves that everything is just wonderful and perfect. But life happens, you know, it isn't always like that. You know, sitting with that uncertainty and raising our tolerance to it really is a big part of healing. You know, it can be difficult this time of year as well, because you may have something bad that did happen at this time of year, and it can raise a lot of past memories over things, and, you know, that can be difficult. So much self-compassion is needed. You know, this has been a big part of my, you know, recovery journey, is having that self-compassion, because, you know, we need to, you know, life is difficult, life is hard. Like I said, it's unpredictable. We can't know what's going to happen in the future. And if we have past memories of things that did actually happen at this time of year, you know, you need to be kind to yourself, because life is difficult at times. You know, it's not easy. So remember, take that time out for yourself if you need it. And remember, the main important thing here is that we have all the tools we need to use when things get challenging with OCD and anxiety over this time. So letting the thoughts be there, you know, not engaging with it when it's trying to get your attention, it's trying to sabotage and hijack your Christmas. You know, we can let it be there. You know, it's going to try and do it. You know, not every time. You know, I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but it's these times of year when it tends to rear its head again, for all the reasons I've discussed. So, you know, just know we can actually deal with it. You know, if we don't engage with those rituals, you know, those compulsions, whether it be physical or mental, you know, when we're ruminating over things, you know, just bring some more awareness to it. You know, we're not standing guard, like I said earlier, we're not standing guard of our thoughts just in case one pops up, but we're just being aware that when they do pop in, we can do something about it. It doesn't have to take over and ruin our Christmas. We can let that sit there and it will fade on its own. It really has been life-changing to me, metacognitive therapy, you know, letting these thoughts just play out for as long as they want. And, you know, it really is quite freeing when it happens, because when they, you know, they dissolve on their own and you feel or lift that anxiety, because we have to sit with that uncomfortable feeling too. So when we feel that anxiety, you know, letting that sit there, it takes some practice, but it's definitely achievable. And the more consistently we do it, the easier it becomes. And also bringing acceptance. You know, it doesn't have to be perfect. You know, acceptance is big. You know, we don't have control over everything. You know, we can get quite fixated on all the bad stuff. You know, we're super plugged into everything that's going on around us in the world as OCD sufferers, and we can't stop bad things happening in the world, or even the things that happen to us. You know, life has its ups and downs, but we don't have to let it ruin the present, because that's where we're truly alive. You know, we're not living in the future. We can't do anything about that, and that's been a difficult part of my healing journey. It's probably one that's taken the longest time, is, you know, reaching a level of acceptance over it. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time, but it's most definitely achievable for anyone that's going through this journey. OCD and anxiety can be the unwelcome visitor that we don't want this festive season, but it doesn't have to stay. So I really hope this video has helped you in recognizing all those things that could potentially happen, not definitely, but potentially happen over this Christmas period. Let me know in the comments if this resonates with you, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching, guys.